You guys, what if you could time travel? Go decades into the past or centuries into the future. What if you could stop it, flip it, or reverse it? We're lucky then that so many movies and shows have given us a taste of what that might look like. You got Marty from Back to the Future, Hero from Heroes, Ezra Miller from Hey, wait, come back! Looper, Doctor Who, The Time Machine, The Terminator, and so much more we'll get into today. In this video, let's take a closer look at how each character manipulated time. So sit back, relax, cause where we're going, we don't need roads. First, let's travel back to the year 1960 with H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, where we got a bit of old school movie magic.
I was totally involved in what was happening. I was transported. I really believe when I pulled that lever, I was going there, man.
More than 40 years later, the remake gave us the same scene, but with some updated effects. When we pull back even further, an entire city was built from the ground up to give us a striking time travel sequence that still lives in my head to this day. But back in 1963, Doctor Who premiered, the longest-running sci-fi TV show ever. Through the plot device of regeneration, we've seen the Doctor take many forms throughout the years. But it was the 10th Doctor who tried his best to explain how time works.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Oh. But one thing that's remained constant is the iconic TARDIS.
A thing that looks like a police box. It can move anywhere in time and space.
And much like that tent in Goblet of Fire, it's a lot bigger on the inside than it looks. The time rotor, the control console, this pedal that dispenses a cookie, there's no limit to the random things you'll find inside.
Hey, look, the round things.
I love the round things.
What are the round things?
No idea.
And while the purple boxy design is instantly recognizable, what counts is where and when it ends up going. From the bottom of the ocean to the inside of a volcano, from the skies of London to the furthest reaches of time itself, it's been fun to see the visual effects evolve over its 60-year run. But in 1985, we were about to see time travel like we've never seen it before. Back to the Future introduced the world to the now legendary DeLorean, a car so iconic it's still being referenced 30 years later.
Looks like an airplane. Well, when?
What started out in the early drafts as a refrigerator, dodged a bullet there. The car had to look like it could travel through time, but also look believable enough that anyone could build it in their garage. After setting the date, checking the flux capacitor, and hitting 88 miles per hour, we were about to see some serious shit. The VFX team at ILM had to figure out what time travel would look like. These flashy effects, they drew them by hand like psychopaths. These fire trails, they lit 80 gallons of pyro fluid by dragging torches across the street.
They gotta make sure that the crane is right and the wind is right and the lightning's right. So basically I'm dying out there, but it looks great. They keep saying it looks great.
At the end of the movie, our heroes set off for another adventure. And if you think Doc looks a bit fake in there, that's because he and Marty were tiny figures in a scale model DeLorean. For the sequel, they took 1955 Hill Valley and transformed it to the 2015 version, full of colorful outfits, self-lacing shoes, and hoverboards. Why can't they just make these already? I want one so bad.
We wanted to keep the future as a nice place, a decent place.
By using some fun concept art and a lot of careful planning, their next task was to figure out how to make the DeLorean fly. With that scale model and a bit of stop motion, they could transition to the real car, hide the scene behind a pole, and you could get some pretty believable shots of time travel. But another way the sequel pushed the boundaries of time was with this crazy-ass scene where we see 3 generations of McFlys: Senior McFly, Junior McFly, and Marlene McFly. yo, why she kinda... With impeccable production design, pioneering new technology, and hours in the makeup chair, you can't deny that this trilogy pushed time travel effects years into the future, and the crew's hard work will be appreciated for decades to come. Even if Universal Studios did get rid of the ride, I will never forgive them for that. But on a dark and quiet night, a butt-naked Arnold Schwarzenegger was about to appear out of nowhere. The image most burned into my mind is the back corner of this truck. The molten orange glow outlining the cutaway cross-section brings back images of those early Tron suits. For later movies, the time sphere got a brighter, cloudier, more violent update, and thankfully, still did that car slicing thing. With Terminator, James Cameron not only gave us a legendary futuristic war scene, one that inspired countless movies after it, but his vision of time travel would also go down in history. And speaking of history, it's time to check in with two righteous dudes named Bill and Ted. With a fan blowing and a flash of light, the phone booth dropping out of the sky was always a fun time.
Because we literally would drop a phone booth from a crane, not with anybody in it. That was about the only way we could get, for the money we had, the actual dropping, and then we would enhance it with some other visual effects.
But when it got ready to leave the scene, we got another revolutionary visual.
These are the circuits of history, gentlemen. They'll take us to any point in time we wish.
Why not get inside there and, and go through all that? Bill and Ted are the ultimate, just kids, surfers, and it's like, well, here's a ride. Let's go on the ride.
Later in the movie, Ted uses time travel to plan a daring escape.
Trash can. Remember a trash can.
Trash can, what are you talking about?
Yeah, get this thing off me, Ted.
For Bogus Journey, the root of probably 99% of my nightmares. What the absolute The two use time travel again to save the day.
After we get away from this guy, we time travel back to before the concert and set up the things we need to get him now. Like a sandbag. Then we'll get a cage.
And almost 30 years later in Face the Music, it was interesting to see how the phone booth's visual effects evolved. But in 2004, we were about to see time travel in the Wizarding World. Right away, you can tell that Harry's third year at Hogwarts was a little darker. You had Dementors patrolling the grounds, werewolves in the night, and that one kid in the frog choir. Bro, chill. And who better to bring all that to life than the madman, Alfonso Cuarón? Looking like he spent a few years in Azkaban himself, if you know what I'm saying. He was an absolute wildcard on set, but ultimately brought the series to new heights.
We have to be sensing the magical all the time. You just accept that it is a universe in which this kind of stuff happens.
So on the first day of divination class...
Where did you come from?
Me? Been here all this time.
And later, while learning about boggarts...
When'd she get here?
We soon find out that Hermione's been taking extra classes on purpose? With the help of a time turner. It was fun to finally see the power such a tiny thing could hold, and the way they did this was actually pretty genius. They set up a blue screen behind them, which separated them from the background. They could then add all the time-echoey, sped-up characters around them, and when we go from night back to day, some guy with a light just walked behind them, matching the position of the sun. And what follows is one of my favorite time travel tropes, seeing previous scenes play out from another perspective. Back to the Future did it, Endgame did it, sandwiched between them was Prisoner of Azkaban, and it made the third act super fun to watch.
He's free. We did it.
Did what? Good night.
But just 2 years later, a little Japanese man named Hiro Nakamura took the world by storm.
Yatta!
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 Played with Quirky Abandon by Masioka. You guys can stop bowing now. Guys, we're gonna be here all day. The man has led a pretty interesting life, appearing in Time magazine as a kid, working as a VFX artist on The Phantom Menace, and even having a bit part in Austin Powers' Goldmember.
Run! It's Godzilla!
It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not.
Still, we should run like it is Godzilla!
It makes sense then that he just so happens to play the time-manipulating hero on NBC's Heroes.
I'm not a hero. You know who's a real hero? Hero from Heroes. That's a hero.
By shutting his eyes and clenching his butt cheeks real tight, Hero could put a stop to the flow of time itself. Come on, who else did this to as a kid? Allowing him to rig a game of roulette, prevent a spilled drink, pull some pranks, and even reverse bullets. When a truck loses control and is about to hit a little girl, he uses his power to save the day. A shot like this was no easy task. The team behind it at Stargate Studios would decide the best way to pull it off.
First thing we do is track the shot. We need the 3D elements to move precisely with the rest of the footage.
Using reference, they recreated them in CG, then suspended them in the air to create frozen time. While we were able to see all this from his perspective, to everyone else, it just looked like he was teleporting. And when it came to time travel, well, he could do that too. But if he wasn't going centuries into the past, he was visiting from the far-off future.
Peter Petrelli. My name is Hiro Nakamura. I'm from the future.
Future Hero, speaking perfect English, was sick. But a few years later, in 2012, time travel would get a whole new look. Before Rian Johnson directed The Last Jedi,
I wish I could put my fist through this whole lousy, beautiful town.
Ew. He brought us this thoughtful sci-fi original, a story that takes place in the distant future.
It's not one of these glitzy CG sci-fi worlds. It actually feels like something that could exist in 30 years.
In this world, time travel exists, but it's immediately outlawed.
The smartest men in the future know one thing about time travel that we don't. They know to be scared to death of it. And it's kind of been driven underground, and the only people who use it are these mobs.
These mobs in 2074 send people back to 2044 to be executed by loopers. And while starting up the time machine felt wild and chaotic, coming out the other end looked a bit more calm. After planning the story beats, it was easy to film two versions of the shot and just stitch them together. Filmed on a tiny $30 million budget, it only made sense that their interpretation of time travel also looked as simple as possible.
When you appear at the other end, you're effectively appearing out of nowhere.
Why should it look fancy or have crazy effects? One minute they don't exist, the next minute they do. In this crazy future, we see Joseph Gordon-Levitt, a dude playing a dude, disguised as another dude. And although he spends his free time learning French, his boss from the future tells him to go to China.
I'm from the future. You should go to China.
I'm going to France.
You're going.
So he goes to China, lives a full life, and finds true love. The idea of changing your past or altering your fate has entranced audiences for decades, and it's one of the reasons Looper struck such a chord.
I can tell you what I would do if I met my younger self. I'd slap him in the back of the head. Be like, just calm down. Everything's okay.
But just 3 years later, some high schoolers in a basement were about to build their own time machine. David Raskin stumbles across an old video camera, and when he watches a recording of his 7th birthday party, a mysterious figure can be seen in the background.
Dude, that can't be.
That's me.
So they go down to the basement and find his dad's unfinished project, a time machine.
You guys are crazy. We can't build a time machine.
I mean, did you see the tape at your 7th birthday? I mean, I think we already did build it.
After a few failed attempts, they finally get it to work. Nearly everything you see, floating and spinning, were carefully modeled CG objects, designed to make every shot feel more hectic than it already was. Plus, a bit of product placement. For the time machine itself, they started with a base prop, camera tracked it, and stuck on a ton of whirring machinery.
Now, if you guys can actually go back in time, where would you guys go?
I guess maybe Vikings or something.
Whoa, hardcore, you're a Viking chick, yeah.
Now, with a time machine on their side, they use it the way kids would, getting back at bullies, falling in love, and of course, winning the lottery.
All the irresponsibility of a high schooler running around using the machine
Right.
for just incredibly
Screwing everything
selfish
up.
reasons.
Yeah.
But it's not all fun and games. When David's friend Quinn draws on his past version's neck, this happens.
Oh my guys, wake it up, guys, wake up.
What?
Oh my god, what's happening?
Have there been time travel horror movies yet? Because this was haunting. Oh my god. My man be looking like a blobfish. Stop, I told you. This feedback loop was only the beginning. The group finds out that all their time traveling leads to a butterfly effect that will ultimately doom the world. To fix it, David has to go back to where it all started. With a fantastic premise and a likable cast, wrapped up in the found footage format, Project Almanac told a pretty fun time travel movie. Yet in the Marvel Universe, time travel was about to be introduced in Avengers Endgame. After a simple snap wipes out half the population, the world becomes a cold, dark husk of its former self. But what seemed like 5 long years to us was only 5 hours in the quantum realm.
What if there was a way that we could enter the quantum realm at a certain point in time, but then exit the quantum realm at another point in time?
Are you talking about a time machine?
Yeah, like a time machine.
As a lover of science fiction and comic book films, when they started talking about time travel in my Marvel movie, I was absolutely giddy in the theater, long before Cap picked up that hammer. So how was this movie about to present such a complex idea for the first time and make audiences fully believe that it was even possible? Oh, that's it? Even Doc Brown didn't figure it out that fast.
It's taken me almost 30 years of my entire family fortune to realize the vision of that day. My God, has it been that long?
Now that I believe. It helped a bit that the team ran a few dozen tests.
Instead of pushing Lang through time, you might have wound up pushing time through Lang. It's tricky, dangerous.
It's baby.
It's Scott. As a baby, he'll grow.
But to really navigate through the quantum realm, you needed a time suit.
The time suits are a combination of Ant-Man, Tony Stark, and Guardians tech.
After filming everyone in their normal clothes, they created the suits entirely with CGI, and then match-moved them onto the actors. Each character had their own custom design that could nano on and off their bodies. It's something most people would never even notice, but probably took teams of artists to pull off. When it was all said and done, our heroes could finally time travel. So in addition to the original Avengers wrapping up their storylines in meaningful ways, time travel was the perfect way to give our beloved heroes a final goodbye. But a few years later in 2023, we were about to see time travel in a whole new way. Barry Allen lives in the worst timeline. His friends make fun of him, his boss doesn't take him seriously, and even as a superhero, he gets no respect. All this can be traced to the day he lost his mom and his dad was framed for the murder. When the memory becomes too overwhelming, Barry begins to run faster than ever before. By surrounding him with these huge screens, they were able to fake all the lighting and reflections, and we got Barry running at the speed of light. Through the years, we've already seen the Flash travel through time. In the CW show, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So his own movie had to come up with a new visual. Made to look like one of those old-fashioned zoetropes, he sees all the events from his day stacked up like a chronological coliseum. And by stepping out of the bubble, he's able to enter any point in his past. Out of the film's many crazy moments, this sequence will most likely live in infamy. You couldn't just get the actual actors to do these shots? Weren't they like on set? But while images like this might have looked a bit strange, you can't deny that a huge team of talented people put in years of hard work to bring us visuals we've never seen before. Some worked, some didn't. But at the end of the day, The Flash will live on as one of the movies of all time. And if you've made it this far into the video, enjoy this chill-ass montage of other examples of time shenanigans.